This is the Coach's Wife Life podcast. I'm Kristen Ergel, your host, a former TV sports reporter and fellow college football coach's wife. I'll go one-on-one with the strong women who are the backbone of college athletics and athletics of all levels. And now, Coach's Wife Life.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
Hey there, I'm Kristen Ergel, and we have an exciting podcast ahead. But first I want to talk about something we all know way too much about, moving. Just the thought of that can bring an unsettling emotion. Well, I found a team that can take that load off your plate. It's D1 Relocation. This group can do it all. They can organize your move, coordinate with a moving company, and a trusted real estate agent. They can actually vet key household partners such as schools, insurance agents, physicians in the area. They can even help set up your Wi-Fi and water. It's incredible. So I've come to know this team, which is actually founded by a coach's wife. I think you should check it out, whether you're looking to move now or in the future. It's d1relocation.com. Now on to our awesome podcast. It is my honor to bring Renee Anacchione on the podcast. Renee is the wife of Ben Anacchione, head strength and conditioning coach at Washington State. Thanks for being a part of us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you guys are in your first season at Washington State. You spent last year as the head strength and conditioning coach at Akron. We were together at Kansas. You've also been at Wyoming, Pitt, and LSU. Some fun programs to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about your career and you think about places you've been and how he's related to student athletes, what do you feel like really makes him dynamic in this role?
I think, and Ben, Ben is uniquely him. He's tatted from like throat to, all over his body. And I think he looks a certain way and people expect him to be a certain way. And, kind of like an aggressive, coach and unapproachable. And when you meet him, you find, he is uniquely him. He doesn't try to fit into spaces he doesn't fit into, but he is soft-spoken. He has a big heart. He cares and loves deeply. And more importantly, I think he just always makes decisions for the betterment of athletes. That has always been his priority. And he makes decisions based upon the program, the student athletes, and their betterment. And, I think he's not wavered on that at all. And I think, that is kind of what makes him unique.
It absolutely does. Now, where did you grow up? And did you ever see yourself as a coach's wife?
So we grew up together in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't think that I ever knew what a coach's wife or thought about, any of that growing up. But, I remember in our high school yearbook, I had written to Ben, I can't wait to marry you, have Italian babies, and you play for the New Orleans Saints, in our 17-year-old minds, that was where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. And then to end up at his first coaching stop at LSU and to be in Louisiana and to get married in Louisiana and then to have our babies and start our family in Louisiana was kind of weird. But I don't know that I knew that it would be coaching. I just kind of thought, our lives would kind of center around football in some capacity.
So you knew each other in high school, and I'm sure I've heard this story before because we were on staff together in Kansas. How did you guys meet? Obviously, you've known each other for how many years?
So we met when we were 13 years old, going into 8th grade. We met at a friend's swim party that summer going into 8th grade. But we actually were born in the hospital together. Our parents kind of lined it up, and we were both, we're 2 days apart. And so we were in the hospital together. And then met when we were 13 years old and grew up, going to middle school and high school. And I cheered, he was a football player, that sort of thing. But, didn't start dating actually until after college, it's pretty amazing. He's my best friend. And I consider myself really blessed.
That is incredible. So my daughter's 12. So next year, it could really happen. Have you thought about that now as a mom going, well, in a couple of years, they could make their spouse?
No, I can't even think about them dating. No, I just want them to be little babies forever. No, I can't think that far. I'm going to be the crazy Italian mom.
So your families knew each other?
No, like
Okay.
I didn't even live we were both born in Pittsburgh, but at that point in time, I was living like an hour and a half away in
Okay.
another town. And so my parents got divorced. We moved to Pittsburgh. He was going to a Catholic school and he decided he wanted to go to the public school. So like our lives just kind of like pieced together later in life. But then, as our parents started looking at like our birth records and baby books, like, oh my gosh, we were, in the hospital together.
That is the coolest story. Okay, how many
Yeah.
kids do you have now?
So we have three. We have Salvatore, who is 8. We have Santino, or Sonny. He is 6, and then we have Luciana, who we call Louie, and she is 3. So it's kind of a zoo. You might hear them
Gorgeous.
as they're getting ready for school.
Okay, so you work now. Tell us what you do.
So I work now for the Department of Education, and I'm still working on my doctoral degree in higher ed administration through the University of Wyoming. So, I kind of have my other things, and those things are important. But first and foremost is Ben, our kids, and our family, and that's kind of always at the forefront.
And you've been a part of programs where you've done some incredible winning and been in bowl games and a fun part of your life. But as we know, and this is one of my sad but favorite questions to ask is the tough questions here, which is not every day is easy. And obviously, we walked through some things together. What's been some of the toughest adversity you guys have faced, and what did you rely on to get through those moments?
Well, I think, being at Kansas together, Krista, we all, we're the majority of the staff, being let go back in 2021. Prior to that, when we got to Kansas in 2020, as soon as we got there, it was COVID. COVID kind of hit. And then a few months after that, my dad got diagnosed with cancer and then he passed. And then a few months after that, we got fired. So it was just kind of like being hit, each time kind of being knocked down a little bit. And, we really had to kind of rely on each other and our faith. And, it's obviously unprecedented to get fired in May. So that kind of weird timing of that and just all of these like extraordinary things kind of happening at once. And so I think, Ben and I talk about this often, we looked at how you and Joshua handled it, and you all did not miss a mark. You smiled every day, you showed up. There was never you never missed a beat. And so I think, in our conversations, we would kind of say like, if they're handling it this way, and we're paying attention to them, who else is paying attention to us? Who can we model this for? Whether it's like the staff, the other strength staff, our peers, our friends, but more importantly, the 3 little people, at home. How are we going to model this to them? Because they're watching every little thing. So while they know we're going through these really hard things and they're dealing with the loss of their grandfather and having to move again and leave their first home, it was really important to kind of stand tall, walk with our faith, and just trust and know that we were being led, and have real conversations and model to them authentically, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but this is real. This is real life. And this is what, we want to kind of show you as your parents. And I hope, we've done that.
My word, I did not know you were going to say that. It just made
I'm
me
sorry.
cry.
I'm sorry.
It's
the truth. I'm sorry.
I really appreciate it.
No.
That's powerful.
No.
You got me off my question. I'm so grateful for that though, because I mean, that's what it's about, right? We talk about it as coaches, overcoming adversity. But when it happens to you personally and you're in those moments and I always think about, this is their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
This is their, this is where the rock in the hard place. And this is where they're looking at like, mom and dad say this externally. Mm-hmm. This is what you say to your players. This is what you say to your podcast or whatever. But who are they, at home? And that's the hard part, because at home, you just want to fall apart and go, where is this going? And how is this going to ever turn out? Well, how could this be? All the things that run through your head. And that's the test right there.
It is. And I think, I remember Lee Beth asking me, like, you all are doing so great. You all are handling this so well. And we were like, okay, but like, we're like, look at Joshua and Kristen and how they're handling it. And, I remember like you all kind of dealing with like the insurance things and, all those things that kind of go into that. We're like, look, they're dealing with these harder things. If we can handle this. And so kind of looking at it that way, like, if they're able to kind of walk tall and keep their heads up, then we can do the same.
Being having a calm in this study, I appreciate that. And the only way we can do that is our faith. I mean,
Yep.
that is the only way that it's changed
Absolutely.
us, though. I mean, do you feel like it's changed you?
Absolutely. We are different. We are stronger. Like we'll say in reflection, we are not the same people that we were when we first came to Kansas, even after Kansas. I think we thought for a second, like this might break us, or this might, this is just a lot between my dad and this. And, not having to kind of, I think for us, the bigger part of Kansas was being able to give our children a home. And I know that seems like very like basic for a lot of people, but in the coaching profession, you don't really get that opportunity to kind of settle and buy a home. And so to be able to, at a point in our lives, to give our kids a home and say, this is yours, and to feel like it's kind of swept underneath of you, it hit. And so it was much deeper than just a loss of job. It was us kind of having to ask the kids again, trust us. We're going to move. We're going to, we might bounce around. And, for them, for their little minds, and trying to explain all this change and the uprooting, it gets difficult. And, you feel guilty in a way. It's like, are we just doing this to chase a dream, our dream? And I think, it required some conversations between us and God, and kind of saying like, are we chasing our own dream, or are we showing our kids to strive for more, to be exposed to more and see the world and just want more? And I hope through all of this, we've done that.
Yes, I know you have. And then, our sphere of influence in, that impact changes as well. That's another thing I'm able to share with my kids, which is, yes, now you have these group of people that can see God in you, right? And then we get to take that to another area. And I think that's one of the ways and things we've been able to share with our kids. So this is what year for you being a coach's wife? How many years have you been going?
So Ben started coaching. He started high school for like a year. So about 14 years, but he's been in college for about 12 now.
Wow. 12 years. Okay. So what's one thing, Renee, you're glad you made a priority?
I think it was always just our faith. I think, we've had to kind of really fall into that, given, some of the things that have happened in our lives, whether it was professionally or personally. But I think always knowing and trusting that we are being led, there's a defined path, and God is kind of always ahead of us, and we're walking that, knowing that he's already ahead of us. And there's nothing that we're going to face that he hasn't seen, that, we can't handle. And really trusting that the suffering and the things that we go through are ours, and we're meant to go through those things. And there's lessons in those things. And, how do we take from those lessons? Do we model those to our kids? What about the people around us? And trying to be a support to other people, whether that's on staff or our family and friends. And I just think it's kind of, trusting God in every decision, kind of letting go. I think, at some point, you're always kind of on this future planning of like, well, what's next? What's the next job? And it's just like, after kind of everything, I think Ben and I just kind of looked at each other and were like, if we have our faith, if we have each other, the five of us, and we have our health, nothing else matters. And I start the day like that, and I end the day like that. And that is kind of how I choose to go into life. And, every day, do I think, every moment, can I hold on to that? Absolutely not. But that is kind of how I tried to live my life, and kind of coming off some of these harder things that we've dealt with.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. I mean, because that is your foundation.
Yeah.
Because, you can, this profession, we are so judged on wins, losses, and then things that don't even need to do with these things, that we walk through. And like, you can just get so high and you get so low, and and you can feel it every day. I think there's
Mhm.
people that don't think that the families maybe feel that every day. We feel it every day. Like on a
Absolutely.
random Wednesday morning,
Mhm.
really
It
early in
hits.
Washington State. We
Yes.
feel that every day. But to
Yeah.
keep that steady,
Mhm.
that's the hard part, to keep that steady. And you
It
have
is.
to have the foundation. And when you feel yourself going this way,
Mhm.
knowing when to pull it
Mhm.
back and go, hold on, what really matters?
Exactly.
Why are we doing this? And
Exactly.
that's the thing that I see so much strength in you, that you are doing this.
Thank you.
Uh, gosh, my husband has so much respect for yours, and
Same.
I know we love you guys. Okay, so he's had quite a career. It's impressive. So I love to research, and I knew some of your stops you have been at.
Mhm.
But just to review it before I go on the podcast, I'm like, look at these programs you've been a part of. How fun is that? And you're playing in the Pac-12 now. You're at Washington State, and
Yeah.
a neat environment that you're in there. What a cool thing. And I would imagine you've been with him as his friend since
Mhm.
he was 13 years old.
Yep.
So you have really played a part in some of this success. And I'm not going to let you say I haven't, because you have. Like, we help our guys, right? So what are those things that you have done that's really played a part? Because if I were to have him on here, I would imagine he would say you've played a part.
I always think, I trust Ben from like, 13 to now. I think I've always just trusted him. He's always kind of been like eclectic and wild and unique and in his own way and outspoken, and he doesn't conform. And, you know, as we were younger, people didn't kind of know how to take him. And, I always kind of was like, that person was like, oh, like, I always put him on such a pedestal. But I do think I've just always trusted him, and we talk about everything. Every decision that we make is for, at the end of the day, it's focused on our family. Is this serving our family? If it's not, we're not doing it. And so I think, relying on our faith together and trusting in that as well, in conjunction with just trusting him, and know that he always has, us at the forefront of his mind as he's making any decision. I know that. And I think that's important in a marriage, just generally speaking. But as you're kind of navigating this coaching life, you absolutely have it, because it is complete chaos. And so you need that order, and the order comes from us. We kind of say, like, at this point we are the storm. Like, there's nothing that's going to break us at this point, because we kind of stand firm together and kind of look on, like, whatever comes our way, we're going to handle together.
Yeah. Our circumstances are not going to change who we are.
No, they can't waver, and certainly can't waver for the three little people that are, watching either.
Definitely. And I've been inside your home. It's very organized. It's very clean, well decorated.
Oh gosh.
I love your decor. You're so good at all that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
How do you organize everything all day? Like, how do you get it all done? You're working, you have 3 kids.
I think, I probably have a little bit of like OCD. But I just am the type of person where, like, I need the order. I kind of understand, like, life is chaotic, but the things that I can control, the order, the keeping the home a certain way, just keeping the kind of flow of the family, in a productive stance, instead of just this like chaotic energy. I really feel like, we already have enough chaos kind of surrounding us and that energy. And so if we can bring in like the calm and the order, then maybe some of the other things kind of don't influence. But whether that's like early mornings, late nights, I think for my well-being, and how I lead the family and how I kind of lead the home when Ben's around, I need things a certain way, or I don't feel like I can kind of keep up with it all.
I definitely can't keep up with that. Okay, it's practical. You've done a lot of long moves. You're not like moving in like little state to state. We're talking about, okay, you've done it at Louisiana to, I don't remember the order, but you've lived in Wyoming, Louisiana, Kansas, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Washington. So what are your tips and tricks on moving? When do you move? How do you organize it?
Yeah.
Like, how does it work for you?
I feel like I'm kind of an expert at this point. So Ben will just be like, we're moving again. And so I'm like, okay, got it. And I think, the first move, you don't know. You just kind of like throw everything together and hope for the best. But now as I've done it, I'm like, I could be a professional mover at this point. I like to pack things myself. I think, especially like not the big things, furniture, those sorts of things. I leave it to the movers. But, I kind of go by and you probably can attest to this, but with the movers, they just kind of put what they see in the box, where it's like, well, I want, these sorts of things in this box, and I know where everything's at. I label everything that's in there, because a lot of the times there have been moves where I know I'm not going to unpack certain things, or I know I'm not going to unpack a majority of our things. And so I want them organized in a way, that makes sense for the next move, and that, kind of anticipation. But I always kind of feel like that's kind of relieves some of the stress and the burden, decrease some of the costs. I mean, because these cross country moves, I mean, we'll find that a lot of it is actually out of pocket because they are such major moves. And, with the family size that we have and the things that we have, it just, so I try to do my part. But it's still stressful. It's still nerve wracking. It's still a stressor on me, but I feel like, it kind of eases some of that if I know where things are and how they're organized in my mind.
Well, how do you get connected in a community? I mean, how do you get sitters, all that kind of stuff? What works for you?
We always really like, as a family, to, every time we move, we're like, okay, we want to kind of explore the area, the surrounding areas, try new restaurants, try new things as a family. So we try to do a lot of that. We try to integrate ourselves in the community through sports and the kids' activities and the school. And so here it's really wonderful at Washington State because the majority of the coaches' kids on staff, they're predominantly at the same elementary school. There's a large number of elementary school age kids, and they all play together. They're all in the same sports. And so, we really have this larger sense of community because we're kind of, doing the same activities, same sports, kind of showing up together. It's kind of funny, like when our kids go against each other, because we're like, oh, we're so competitive, on the sidelines, like way more, but we're apologizing to each other, like, sorry.
Oh, that's hysterical. I didn't think about that being on the same sports teams if they're all close together. That would be a little bit tough. I know a little bit about Washington State. I interviewed Pat Chun for another platform I do interviews on. Incredible culture he has built. Now, when you look back, obviously May was not a great time to get things happen for everybody.
Sure.
And you look at how competitive this business is.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to name a name of what job it was, but has there been a job you thought guys would get and it didn't happen?
Sure.
How do you keep them encouraged?
And we've kind of had those throughout our career, and I say I kind of use it interchangeably. I don't feel like this is just Ben's path, Ben's career, and I think we kind of share in that sentiment that our whole family is in this together. But there were certain jobs that he interviewed for and he got passed on, and I always encourage to go take the interview, and you don't know who you're going to meet and who might remember you, and there's value in that, and you get to speak your truth and be authentic to yourself. So like, I think there's value in it. But there are times where he doesn't get those things or hasn't in the past, and my message was always like, that's not a job you want. If you went and spoke from your truth and your heart and were authentically you, and they didn't see you as an asset or bringing value to their program, that's not a program you want to be a part of. Absolutely not. I want him to be in a place where they want him, they appreciate him, they're going to respect him, and they see the value in him and, see him as an asset to the program. And if not, I think you just keep moving on. It's not for you.
That's good. Very, very good wisdom. When you think about how staffs are structured, sometimes it feels like the staff incorporates everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it feels like it becomes maybe on the field coaches get included in certain things, and that can be tough. And sometimes, what would you say to, I don't know, to kind of open our eyes a little bit about, if someone has opportunity, somebody listen to this podcast, we've got people that are probably about to be named a head coach
Sure.
right, in a couple
Yeah.
of months, and then
Yeah.
they're on the verge. What would you say to a wife
Yeah.
about that whole structure, and what would fans need to know about, strength conditioning and how it's different, and what kind of role it plays?
Yeah, I think, and we're really blessed here. Coach Dicker and Ben had a relationship from working at University of Wyoming together. And so I think, more of a peer to peer in those roles. And so I think he truly trusts Ben and, kind of allows him to kind of be we kind of call him like the off season head coach because, he has them, the entire team between, spring training in January through spring ball, and then kind of picking up the summer training and then passing them back, for camp back to the head coach and the staff. And so, I think Coach Dickert really trusts him to be that counterpart and to be that kind of, off-season head coach, so to speak. And I know how much that means to Ben, and he takes that really, really seriously. But it is different. He isn't recruiting, he isn't traveling. His mornings are a lot earlier. So a lot of days he'll go in at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. But he does get out, sometimes earlier. He does, sometimes his hours are a little bit different. Summer is his peak season, whereas in May, the staff coaches may have some downtime. So their schedules don't always kind of align. In season, he's kind of more of a support in the sense of, he's on the sidelines and he's maintaining the strength and conditioning piece for the season and trying, to do that part. But, a little bit more hands off in, it's just more of like maintenance, kind of at that point rather than kind of the high intensity of spring and summer training. But I think, Coach Dickert's given him a wonderful platform to be a voice and to share that with the team and influence them that way. And I don't know. We can't say enough, but it's really like a beautiful thing to see. I really feel like he's seen, he's heard, and he's valued here in that role.
And I have noticed the staffs that really incorporate their head strength and conditioning coach and look at it like a head coach in the off season. There is something special there because it's just another way that they're connecting, obviously, and it builds culture so differently when you have that type of mindset. I know you guys, when we were at Kansas together, always wanted to taste the meatballs and the Italian food that you were making. You guys have them over to your house to eat as well.
Yeah. I think, that's always been important to us. Growing up, like I come from a huge Italian family, and, so our way of loving and caring for each other is to feed each other. My dad, was a culinary chef by trade. And so, we love having staff and players over and feeding them. Ben will cook homemade sauce, homemade meatballs, and the pasta. And, we kind of do like the meats and cheeses and the whole spread. And it's more or less just to welcome them into our home, share that piece of us, because we are kind of private in a lot of senses, but that invitation to the home and being around our kids and just kind of, away from football and kind of just like, relax, put your feet up, be at home and just enjoy this piece. And I hope that we are able to give that, whether it's to staff or to the players. I really hope that.
And you are going to share a recipe, right, with the wives?
Yeah, I'll share the sauce recipe. I'll share that too.
Nice. Okay. So do you have a coach's wife mentor?
I do. So actually my cousin, our moms are sisters. My cousin is a coach's wife. Her husband is a coach with the Tennessee Titans right now. But he was a college football coach. And so he had done some stints at Notre Dame and Nebraska before kind of transitioning. So her name is Jennifer Booker. And, she's part of that big Italian family and, grew up with a million cousins. And she was always like, the person I wanted to be. So that was my role model growing up. And so it's kind of weird that we kind of ended up in like these similar lifestyles, but it's like, it almost makes sense because I always looked up to her. And so it's like, I needed her in that capacity growing up. And I still need her in that now. And so, it's nice to kind of bounce off things with her. And I can trust her. I know, it stays there, but she can give me honest feedback, and share the hard truths about this all, the hard things that people don't want to talk about or just don't talk about. And, just kind of seeing how their family has modeled, handling adversity and getting fired and all the things that kind of go along with coaching. And so to see it in a family member and somebody you hold so closely, just kind of hits differently. And I'm incredibly blessed to have her in my life.
Absolutely incredible. That's really special. I was thinking while you were saying that how you talked about your family being really
Yeah.
large family. Has that been an adjustment? Because is the rest of your family still back kind of sort of at home? Your siblings are there, your cousins, most of them are there. And
Yeah.
then you call home and they've got everybody at games, and
Yeah.
you're like by yourself at your kids'
Yeah.
sporting event. And then you look around, there's grandparents all around. Has that been harder just because you were from such a close-knit family?
It is. I think, like, I almost kind of say it was like, not that I was my mom is one of 7. And so, we have this large extended family and we're all loud. We're all like over the top, a lot of like screaming and argument and kind of like busting chops. Right. And that's how we kind of show our love. And so I always say, because I was on the younger end of the cousins, I was essentially like hazed, right? Like, come but like, they made me tougher for it. But it's hard because we all kind of grew up together. Our holidays were these huge, huge things. And it's hard. And I always kind of feel bad for our kids because I'm like, y'all kind of missed out on this piece. But then, even with my cousin Jennifer, who, she's in the coaching and they're in Tennessee, when our kids and our families get together, it's like they don't even miss a beat. It's like they just pick up and they love each other when they see each other. And so I kind of hold on to those things. And I think that's more of a testament to like our family as a whole and, prioritizing those relationships and showing up for each other. But yes, it's absolutely hard to feel like, grandparents are missing this. And I know it's hard for them. And so, I think it's really important for me to show up for them and Ben as often as he can. But we do FaceTimes. We try to stay connected. But I promise, like, sometimes I'm just blown away because like our kids, our cousins' kids, like they just pick up and they love each other. It's like no one ever missed a beat,
That's good. And
Yeah.
it's like a great culture that you're in right now in Washington State. I mean, the families.
Absolutely.
Do you
Oh, yeah.
do some things with the wives right now? Do you guys get to do some fun things when the kids are at school occasionally?
We do. So, it's been kind of crazy since we got here. Just, normal, training and summer and season. Everybody's, going with, their kids. There's a lot of young kids. So, I will say like the wives on staff we're just all running, right? It's like you're just in the car all the time. If you're not working or doing something else, you're just pretty much shuffling children. But honestly, like I go back to our sports events and the activities, but like that's our time too. So like, yes, we're watching the kids and enjoying that aspect of it, but it's also our time to connect. We do tailgates and things like that. And we do kind of like birthday parties and those sorts of things. And it's light, it's easy, it's fun. And you don't have that everywhere else. And I think that, kind of is a testament to our head coach's wife and kind of, the tone that they set and how that trickles down. It's just easy, right? There's not this like drama or, anything else. It's just like easy, light, fun. And, it's kind of really nice to be a part of it.
When do you get time with Ben? I mean, and you talked about making decisions together and communication, such a big deal.
Yeah.
Do you ever go take a date? Do you cook in? What's your thing?
Yeah, we try. I mean, we try to do date nights during season. It's pretty hard. We typically do like every fall, we do a book together. It's called The Magic, but it's a 28-day practice of gratitude. Each day you kind of practice a different gratitude thing. And so we do that together every fall. And it's in that, it's a lot of goal setting on a personal level And then we do some goal planning as a couple and family and kind of looking ahead for that next year, not anticipation of like necessarily moving or new program or anything like that. It's more or less like the season is going to come to an end here, reflecting on this year, what do we want into the next? And so we try to do that together each year and kind of see how each year, like our things change, where were we 5 years ago relative to now? But we read a lot. So Ben reads a lot of psychology and kind of spiritual books. And I'm more focused on like self-improvement, those sorts of things. And so we'll text during the day, like, screenshots of what we're reading. What do you think? And kind of like bounce things off of each other. But I think we're always kind of like teaching each other, kind of, always trying to, be better together and kind of expand our knowledge. And I think that kind of bonds us.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're working on your doctorate. I mean, you talked about setting goals. This is so impressive to me. Your kids are under the age of 8, right?
Yeah.
You're moving cross country. You're getting them settled in, and a lot of moves more recently. How have you been able to pull this off and be that primary parent?
I honestly think, it kind of goes back to losing my dad. I kind of realized quickly, like after I lost my dad and kind of overcoming that or dealing with that, like in a way to honor him, how did I want to live? Right. And I almost feel like when he died, a part of me died too. A new version of myself kind of had to resurrect and kind of take on the hard things because, for me, my dad was somebody in my life that was like a constant support, somebody I could always kind of fall back on. And so to feel like I'm actually like an adult in this world now, like I don't have that person to fall back on in that way. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be for my kids? Who do I want to be for my husband? Who do I want to be for myself? How do I honor God in a way, and live in a way that is valuable and meaningful? And so, I kind of decided like, who do I want to be? And what I decided was that I needed to be the strongest, most durable version of myself. And so, kind of taking on those things. And so, prioritizing my health, prioritizing working out and taking care of myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, dealing with, the loss of my dad and handling those things appropriately. And then, kind of translating that into how I live my life and how I want to model for my kids. Am I perfect? By far, no. I fail every day and I hope my kids see that, but I hope that they also see that I'm trying and I get back up and the things that have, come our way and tried to knock us down will not. But I kind of feel like if there's another storm that I'm going to be hit with, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be the most strongest, durable version of myself. And so, taking on those things professionally and personally and prioritizing myself. And I, it's not always, I kind of say like, I fail in some regard every day. I can't fill every bucket fully every day. Can't do it. And so sometimes, and Ben and I kind of talk about, it's like, with Christ and everything, with that aspect, the religious aspect, it's judging yourself, but with compassion. And so saying like, I may have not met this goal today, or maybe I didn't get better in this regard today, but I still showed up, I still tried. And so every night before I go to bed, it's like a Kobe Bryant thing, but it's, he asked like, did I get better today? So I have a Post-it on my mirror and I really wrestle with that question at night. Like, did I get better today? And some days, no, but meeting that with compassion, like I didn't, but tomorrow's a new day. Right. So how am I going to do better tomorrow? And so I think if I kind of focus on those things, that the other pieces kind of fall in, right? And just kind of show up for my family and do the things that I know bring value to our lives. And I hope that, they see that. I hope they appreciate that.
Powerful. I mean, you're so inspiring, Renee.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, what do you like to do when you're alone? So are you reading? Are you audiobooks, paper books? And then what do you do in your downtime?
We both do paper books. Downtime, oh gosh, we don't really have a lot. I mean, like I feel like I just want to go to a restaurant, right? It's like, give me food or give me shopping. Like, I'm not that. I don't have a whole we like antiques. Like, we do like to go antiquing together, but like, we're really boring. I mean, it's like, let's watch a show, let's go to a restaurant, let's go get some antiques. I mean, we're like post-retirement at this point. So
Antique shopping. I did not know that about you.
oh my gosh, Ben too. He's like he's a total nerd. Total.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most rewarding part about being a coach's wife?
Honestly, because you know, in the down times, we're like, why are we doing this, right? Like, do we really, you know, in like some sense, like sometimes I'll be like, wow, we like really follow this game. Like, this game dictates so much of life. And you know, but I think it does. It's bigger than, you know, I think that football kind of translates into life, that you kind of suit up and you play your hardest. And if you do, you're rewarded, right? If you do things the right way, you're rewarded. So I think it mirrors life very closely. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to it. But also, I think I look at our kids, and like I said, you know, there are times where I've had to say, like, are we doing this for our dreams and us? Or are we doing it for the betterment of our family? And so, you know, I've kind of thought about, you know, all these different areas that we've lived, you know, all across the country, all these different regions, all these cultures. And then I start thinking, like, all of the things that our kids have been exposed to, you know, different people, different places, different cultures, being afforded the opportunities that they have to be around these, you know, wonderful role models of men, these young men, and even for our daughter to kind of see, you know, examples of young men that kind of live it the right way, and for our sons. And I just feel like there is such value in that. And if I can focus on that and know that, you know, one day Ben and I are going to support their dreams the same way that they did for ours, you know, it's going to kind of reverse. And I hope they kind of see that. I hope that this lends to them kind of seeing that the world is bigger, and to strive for more, and to, you know, never stop reaching for whatever you want out of life.
Rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, as ready as I can be. Yeah.
What's the last book you've read?
So it's called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Wynn. But it's kind of, it challenges you to be more present, and to kind of recognize that, like, life is suffering. But, you know, you kind of dictate your response. And so it's kind of, not manipulating your thinking, but kind of, you know, pausing in your thinking and kind of thinking, you know, is this a thought or is this my response? And kind of challenging yourself in that way to really think about your thoughts a little bit more, and if they are kind of at your benefit or they're detrimental to you.
Wow. I never do blank at a game.
I certainly yell. I don't wear the colors of the team ever. I don't know why. I don't know. Ben wears all black, so like I've started wearing all black. I don't know. I maybe it's like, you know, me being superstitious. I have no idea, but I just don't like wearing the colors of the team. And it's not anything against wherever we are. I either wear black or white traditionally. I don't know.
Okay. If you could have dinner with someone, current or from history, who would that be?
This is ridiculous, but honestly, like Marshawn Lynch. I love Marshawn Lynch. Like, think he's by far like the funniest human on the planet. Like, if it can't be family or anybody, you know, like that. And then I just think of, like, our kids love him and Ben loves him. Like, the stories that I could come back and tell, I mean, that would just be so worth it.
Is he the one that said, and this is not rapid fire questions, but is he the one that said, I'm just here so I don't get fined?
Yeah. But he does like interviews now. I don't know if it's like for I think it's on Prime, but he does like interviews where he went to Amish country and was riding with. Yes.
That's fascinating. Okay. You threw me there. I like it. You get a night alone. What show would you binge watch?
Like, just me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So right now I'm watching Only Murders in the Building. So I feel like I try to binge that when nobody's around, like, just everybody leave me alone and just like, let me watch this. But that's kind of like my thing right now.
What's your go-to meal to cook?
Coming from like a big Italian family, I think it's always easy to be like, let's just do the Italian spread, the sauce, the meatballs, the pasta. I love gnocchi, salad, meats, cheeses, that sort of thing. So I feel like that's always like our quick go-to.
What sport can you beat Ben in?
Ooh, maybe bowling if that's like, a sport. But yeah, bowling maybe, because he's terrible. He's awful.
What was your walk-up song?
I would do Zach Bryan's Open the Gate.
Nice.
I love that.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible.
No, thank you. I love it. Any opportunity to reconnect, absolutely wonderful. So thank you, Kristen.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
For a replay of this episode or previous episodes, visit coacheswifelife.org and follow us on social media at Coaches Wife Life.